Hi, I asked and you said do it, and here it is. In this video I'll show you my approach to recording and mixing acoustic guitars to make them sound big and lush. This usually works best for a solo guitar or a vocal and guitar, where the guitar is really the main thing. Everyone has their own ways and methods, but this is a video about how I like to do it. I'm not saying this is the best way.
This is the best way.
There is no right or wrong.
Don't do it like this.
I'll also show you some interesting tricks to make your guitar sound big and maybe even larger than live. And of course some things you must avoid when recording guitar. So with that out of the way, let's jump in. The basis of recording a great sounding acoustic guitar is that you start out with a sound you like. You don't need expensive guitars or mics, but make sure you like what you hear when you play. So experiment with strings, with picks, with different playing techniques before tracking your part. A lot of my recordings in these videos are done in stereo. Especially when you hear just the guitar as a solo instrument, you can get that nice ambience in there. So for that we need two microphones or one mic and the output of the acoustic guitar, if you have any. I'm going for two mics because I always prefer the sound of a mic above the output of a pickup, which I basically only use in a live situation. I'm using two small diaphragm condenser mics, a Neumann KM184 and an Earthworks SR25. If you need a step-by-step guide to help you record guitar, look up my video titled How to Record Guitar. It's a goldmine to newbies, apparently. I'm putting the mics in a so-called spaced pair. I usually point one microphone at the bridge of my guitar and the other one is aimed roughly at fret 12 of the guitar. A typical rule is to take the distance from the guitar to the mic and then put the mics 3 times that distance apart from each other. We have to make sure we have the mics at the same distance from the sound source to avoid phase issues that sound like this. You hear that the waveforms from both mics are fighting each other. They cancel each other out. So we avoid that by carefully adjusting where we put the mics and make sure they are at the same distance from the guitar. And I press record on this little device. When I'm tracking my guitars anywhere else but in my studio, I'm using this portable recorder, the Sound Devices MixPre 6. It works on batteries or a USB-C powered in this case, so very easy to just plug in, plug the mics in and go. So you see 3 cables coming in, 3 mics. Yes, that is because this little baby over here is also plugged in. Is it out of frame? I have no idea. So these are the 2 mics coming into the MixPre 6. I press record and I'm doing the final take. Before recording, I always check my sound with the headphones to make sure there are no phase issues. When I'm happy, I press record. Yes, perfect. Alright, welcome in my little studio, and as you can see I just slapped the tracks in the DAW. I used the audio tracks from the Verge video so you can see exactly what I did over there. So there's 2 mics, so there need to be 2 tracks. And you can use any DAW you like, it doesn't matter, they all do the same, and all the plugins I'm using, you can use any stock plugin found in any DAW. So don't worry about the exact model or whatever I'm using, do everything you want. Let's first listen to the neck mic. The microphone positions at fret 12, right? And now the bridge mic. Wow, that sounds super different. Yes, and that's exactly what we want. We use those 2 different sounds to create one massive sound. But let's continue. So the first thing I do is I'm slapping an EQ on the tracks, and for this one I'm using the one from Ozone 9, but you can use any EQ, they all do the same, it doesn't matter at all. So how does an EQ work? We see the low frequencies over here, the high frequencies over here, and the middle frequencies, you guessed it, exactly in the middle. What I like to do is to cut out some of the low end, because somewhere if you like have a mic in your living room and there's a car driving by, you hear that low rumble. And we need to eliminate that from the sound. So what I do, I have a high pass filter in there, and let's put it somewhere like between 40 or 60 hertz. I'm picking 50 right now. That's okay. So when I press Alt, you can hear exactly what's filtering out. So if you listen to this on a smartphone, you can't hear anything. On a laptop, I don't think you can hear anything either. But with good monitors or like a headphone or a subwoofer, you can hear that low rumble. Let's sweep it up until you can hear it. There it is, right? So anything below 50. Let's get rid of it. The next thing I like is to add some brilliance or some clarity to that sound. So an EQ can bring up the things you like in a guitar, the good qualities, and it can eliminate some of the bad qualities. So the frequencies we like, let's find some. And I usually bring up somewhere between 2.5 and 4K, so 1000. Let's see. So this looks very extreme, but this EQ is pretty moderate. The top is just 6 decibels, so right now I'm boosting 3.7 decibels at 3.3 kilohertz. Alright, so it looks quite extreme, but it's just, and I sweep the spectrum, so I just sweep from left to right and find exactly the part I like. So let's just listen to what I boosted. Okay, usually I add a high shelf in there, like from like 11 or 10K and up, that extreme high sound you are adding. And sometimes it can be very annoying, sometimes it can be very nice. Just listen, because your ear can tell you. Okay, this sounds actually pretty nice. It can be very spiky sometimes, but this sounds good. So from 11K and up, I'm boosting it with 2.4 decibels right now. And sometimes an acoustic guitar can be a bit boxy. And usually you find those frequencies between 3 and 5 or 2 and 500 hertz. And you can get some of those out. So when you bring up frequencies, you should keep the bell curve a little bit wider. And when you take out frequencies, you should keep it a little bit more narrow. This way the guitar will sound natural and not weird. So I'm taking out something, so I'm keeping it a little bit narrower. You can see less frequencies are being damaged than over here. Okay, I like this sound. So with and without, that's a pretty massive difference for me. It's just, it sounds more lively and more fun and more open and more, just, it sounds good. Okay, so we do the same with the bridge pickup. All right, great, I like the sound. So with, so it just, first you have a guitar, it sounds a little bit like this, and then it just opens up and it sounds crystal clear. So now it's time to add some compression to this, and I like to use the Virtual Mix Rack by Slate Digital. But you can use any compressor, as I told you a million times before. Just use the stock compressor. It will sound pretty much the same, and it will do the same as this one. It's just my workflow. Don't have to copy it. Okay, so the threshold determines when the compressor kicks in. And I usually aim for -5, -7 when I play loud. So just let's go to a little bit a louder section. Okay, so the threshold, let's aim for -5 over here, right? You already hear that it keeps everything a little bit tighter. It holds everything a little bit more together and it sounds a little bit more out there, and that's what I want. The ratio, keep it between 2 and 4, not too much. The attack should be slow and the release should be fast. That's my rule of thumb. Do your own thing, but I like that sound because if you keep the attack slow, it keeps the initial punch of the guitar, the attack, the sound of your pick or when you're finger picking. And the release fast so it doesn't get that breathy pumping of the compressor. We don't want that. So that's great. Let's say with the same settings, but now to a little bit more quiet. You see, it's hovering between 1 and 2 with slight ticks to 3, but that's all you need. You could do more if you like that sound. It is a sound and you can use it, of course, but it takes some of the life out of it, maybe. All right, I'm just copying the same compressor to the bridge. Let's see if it sounds larger than life. It sounds okay, but not as big as I promised, not larger than life, right? It sounds just good. Yeah. So let's start to make it sound large. What I'm doing, the neck track, I'm panning that all the way to the left. We call that hard left. So all the sound is coming out of one speaker. And the bridge, I'm panning it hard right. So all the sound is coming to the other speaker. So now if I play it, nice, I'm sitting right in the middle of those tracks. So this is the neck in solo and the bridge in solo. So you're sitting in the middle of both microphones, just like when you're playing guitar. The low end, maybe coming from the right a little bit, you're surrounded by the guitar, and that's a sound I really like. So, and now you can add reverb to taste. So I've got here a return track or a bus, it all has different names. And I slapped Valhalla Vintage Verb on there with a reverb of 2.19 seconds. So it's moderately long, it's not super long. So now I'm sending -15 to the reverb track. So the audio gets split, gets sent for -15 decibels, I guess, into the track and then mixed back into the signal. Now you hear that nice atmosphere coming in there. Beautiful. Maybe it's a little bit too bright, so you can just, use settings you like on your reverb. It's all pretty straightforward. Watch a reverb tutorial on YouTube, whatever. So, but there's one special trick that I like to use a lot, which makes it sound like really larger than life. So we add one return track and we call it reverb right. We add one more track and we call it reverb left. And we smack two reverbs on there. Again, I have the Valhalla Vintage Verb, and let's do a little bit shorter, 1.8, and let's add a little bit of pre-delay. So that means the reverb is coming later. It waits, in this case, 40 milliseconds before the reverb starts. So there's a little bit delay between the audio when I'm playing and the reverb that's coming back to us. And the cool thing is now, the guitar that's coming from the left speaker gets sent to the reverb that's only coming out of the right speaker. So the reverb right, I'm panning that all the way to the right, and I'm sending my neck to that reverb. So let's have a listen. Let's do it very extreme. Ooh, so you hear the dry signal coming out of the left speaker in this case. That's your left, right, I don't know. And you hear the wet signal coming out of the other speaker. So it sounds like, and we do the same for the bridge channel or the bridge guitar. I'm setting that one to the reverb left, that's panned all the way left, and the guitar is panned all the way right. So let's have a listen. So this is very extreme, so let's turn it down a little bit, -15 maybe. It's all a bit trial and error, -15. And now let's see how it sounds. Wow. This sounds like otherworldly great. But one more thing I like to do for this is to make a little bit more like come together, have a compressor. For this I like the CLA2A by Waves, and put it on the bus of both tracks. So now it's affecting both the neck and the bridge together. They both impact that compressor, and just have a very slight amount. And sometimes I even throw an EQ over here. And there we are, that's the sound. And it depends on the kind of part you're playing. If you're playing a rhythmic strumming pattern, it doesn't make sense to do this, because it just gets in the way. You see, now I think there's too much compression for this part. Yeah. Because you just hear when he's diving in, well, in this case me, because I'm the player, when I'm diving in, you don't get rewarded by a louder sound, and that sounds weird. If you're playing loud, it should be louder, because you just, you know, it sounds weird if it's not happening. So you should always be careful. You're not over compressing. That's something dangerous. Avoid that. So that was my tutorial of my approach to these kind of recordings. And again, if you're recording guitars for in a mix for a band, it doesn't make sense to do it like this. This is just when you want one guitar sound like as big and massive as possible without like doing overdubs or doing crazy stuff. And in a band setting, this would just sit in the way of everything else. You don't want to do this kind of stuff. Anyway, if you like this video, you can always support me at my Patreon page. Links are down below. Below that like button, we all want to click gently, right? Have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching. Cheers. Bye.